Ready, set, go!
And the truth shall set you free!
Welcome to One Life Radio.
We are going higher, everyone. Welcome to the One Life Radio podcast. This is your host, Bernadette Fiaschetti, and I am so glad to be here today, and I have a fantastic guest. We're going to be talking about the 2025 Buzziest. That's right, Buzziest, like as in buzzkill. Buzziest sleep trends with Andrew Colsky. He is a Juris Doctor, a licensed professional counselor, licensed mental health counselor, as well as a nationally recognized behavioral sleep expert with over 15 years of clinical experience. He specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia and nightmares, which is CBT-N. Didn't even know there was such a thing, but holds a mini fellowship in sleep science from the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine, and is the founder of the National Sleep Center. As the creator and host of Sleep Science Today, Andrew merges education, advocacy, and media to bring the science of sleep to the public in an accessible and engaging way. Andrew is trusted by healthcare leaders and loved by everyday listeners for his ability to cut through the noise and deliver actionable advice backed by real science. His website is Sleep Science Guy. That's sleepscienceguy.com, or on Instagram at Sleep Science Guy, as well as Sleep Science Today. Those are both Instagram again, Sleep Science Guy and Sleep Science Today. Andrew, welcome to the One Life Radio podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to talk about this because who doesn't want to sleep? You know, who doesn't want a good night's sleep? We all crave it. And the nights that we don't get it, we really miss it. But, you know, it's great to have you here. But I have to ask you, did you sleep well last night, Andrew?
I bet you're not ready for this answer. The answer is no.
What?
I didn't sleep last night at all. I was on a red-eye flight back home from the, get this, 2025 National Sleep Conference that just ended yesterday.
Oh, my gosh. Where was it?
It was in Seattle, Washington.
Wow. And you did a red eye. Wow. Well, that's not good for you. Why'd you do that?
You're telling me.
Oh, my gosh. Well, have you ever had any sleep issues? Because is that how you became interested in the science of sleep?
So great questions, and a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. So for myself, I have sleep apnea. And so I deal with that by using a CPAP machine. But that's not what initially got me interested in sleep. I mean, I was always interested to understand it, but it wasn't until I went to a conference for mental health issues where I attended a session about sleep, and I never really thought about it. I didn't even realize there was, it's called behavioral sleep medicine. And when I learned about it, I started to dig in deeper and found that it was something that was really interesting to me. And I love working with the issues that most counselors don't know about and don't work with. And that just kind of got me started down the path to sleep and behavioral sleep medicine.
Wow, that's a lot of studying and researching, and you've got an incredible bio. You really do. I mean, I'm looking here about that. You have your mini fellowship in sleep science from the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine. That's huge. That's a big deal.
Yeah. It is an absolutely wonderful program. The professors are tops in their field. The whole program itself is just chock full of information. It's just really tops.
Well, you know, before we went live, I brought this up to you, and I've got an article in my hand from the Washington Post. It's from a few years ago, but it says the headline is, "Researchers have found a surprising, powerful effect of sleeping more." And then it goes on to talk about, we all know sleep matters for job performance, and after a week of vacation, you may find you work better than ever. But rack up a week of sleepless nights. And it says here, this is funny, say a polarizing presidential election, and you may find yourself struggling. But it goes on to say that people that they calculate that 1 hour of increase in weekly sleep raises your wages by about half as much as an additional year of education.
Wow.
So you make more money if you sleep better.
You know what? So many things improve if you sleep better, but it makes a lot of sense. And I'll give you a really short story to kind of bring that to life. When I was in law school, it was time for my first year final exams. And in law school, you don't have exams throughout the year. You don't have any grades at all. Your entire grade is your one final exam at the end of each class.
Oh, wow.
And I was studying and, working really hard, and I didn't feel that I knew the material well enough yet, and I needed to stay up and study more. And I forced myself to stay up, and I started drinking, coffee, cups of coffee after cups of coffee, to the point that I was, my heart was starting to race from all the caffeine that I had ingested. And I thought that was going to help me for my exams. Now, luckily, I did fine on my exams. But what I learned later when I learned about sleep is that I would have been much better off sleeping, because when we sleep and we get into deep sleep, that's when our memory consolidates all the information that we've been trying to cram in our brain. So actually, we're doing myself a disservice by trying to stay up and study.
Yeah, that's important. That's important for a lot of college students. My daughter just graduated and she's getting ready to go to law school next year. She's taking a year off, I think. Well, I know she is. I don't think I know, but but yeah, you hear these college students, and I remember her doing that. Oh, I'm studying, Mom, up till like 1 or 2 in the morning. And that's really good advice to get out there, seriously, for all of us that tend to do that from time to time. And so many Americans get up, they drink their coffee, right? And they go through their day, sometimes a little too much, including me. I'm trying to back off of it, actually. And then the alcohol at night, which I have cut out completely. But that's a vicious cycle to get on, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's so, so incredibly common. But because people don't understand that, it seems to work for them. So they think, well, let me just keep doing this. When in reality, when you look at the big picture, it actually goes in reverse. It's something that works a little bit, and then it comes back on the back end and kind of whacks you in the back of the head and gives you the reverse effect of what you thought you wanted to get. So yeah, alcohol before bed is a horrible thing for your sleep, and we can talk about that more if you want. And coffee, caffeine, I tell people, when the day is half, it's time for decaf. It's just easy to remember.
Oh, that's good to remember. Yeah. And they make some good decaf coffees now that don't have all the chemicals in them with the processing of removing the caffeine. I just can't think of it right now. I actually have some downstairs. Rare Bird, I think, is the name of it, that a friend of mine told me about. I'm just pulling that out of my rear end right now.
Well, there's so many coffees that are, coming on the market, and, it's a big industry.
Yeah.
And just like you're seeing a lot of non-alcoholic beers, you're seeing a lot of decaf coffees.
I was in Central Market yesterday, and they had so many, I didn't look at the coffee, but non-alcoholic drinks, no alcohol in them. Just, it's that market is just exploding as people are embracing sobriety. Right?
Yeah.
So, there's so much to know here, and sleep is so critical. But today we're discussing your 2025 top buzziest sleep trends. So let's start with sleep maxing. That's with 2 X's, you guys listening. Andrew, what is sleep maxing, and where did that word come from?
Okay, this is a great question. So sleep maxing refers to basically a lot of the different types of trends that are out on social media. There's a lot of TikTok videos and a lot of other social media channels where people talk about sleep issues and, quite frankly, any other type of issue. And it's all about this desire for a quick fix or to outsmart the system in a way. Now, a lot of these trends have a degree of truth to them, but also a degree that doesn't really support them from a scientific end. And I'll give you some examples. One of the big ones that you hear about today, all the time, is the concept of using mouth tape. when you go to bed.
Yep. Yeah, I have a friend of mine he's a biohacker, Sean Wells, and I remember when we talked about mouth tape a couple of years ago when it first came out, and so, but I don't remember what he said. So, is it good? Is it bad? What does it do?
So the answer is it depends, and basically, the reason why people are using mouth tape would be if they are breathing through their mouth at night, which may lead to snoring, or they just want to train themselves to breathe through their nose. Now, a lot of people just naturally breathe through their nose, so it's a total non-issue. But in basic cases where someone does not have any sort of obstruction in their nasal cavity, they don't have a cold, that they don't have any problems breathing through their nose, but they're just breathing through their mouth and they want to try to change that, then they can put mouth tape on, which basically tapes their mouth closed and it forces them to breathe through their nose. So if that's your purpose, there's nothing wrong with it, and it could retrain you to start breathing through your nose.
I think I would panic if my mouth was safe.
See,
I've never done it, but
that's part that's coming. Exactly. This is the problem.
Go ahead.
Have a clear nasal passage, then you will panic because you can't breathe. Because if your nasal passage is not totally clear, you're going to be restricting your airflow or stopping your airflow, and then you're going to want to gasp through your mouth, but you can't because your mouth is taped closed, and then you freak out and have a panic attack.
Yeah, I could see myself waking up in the middle of the night and going,
yes,
not being able to move my mouth. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So you have sleep apnea. Should somebody with sleep apnea do sleeping tape? It sounds like that might be a bad idea.
It would be a really bad idea. Now here's the science when it comes to that. So there are people who have mild sleep apnea. And if you have mild sleep apnea, and again, you have open nasal passages and you use mouth tape, it may very well help in that situation. Also, if you don't have sleep apnea, but you just snore, mouth tape could help. The problem is that if you have moderate to severe sleep apnea, you do not want to be using mouth tape. And that's because your body is going to be gasping for air, but now you've got your mouth tape shut, like you're saying, and it's going to create a hazard, a real problem. But here's the thing that I tell people about mouth tape. And let's say they have, just minor sleep apnea. The best way to address minor sleep apnea, if you don't get, full treatment and all, is it's because you're sleeping on your back. And when you sleep on your back, gravity pulls your tongue down, and it also can collapse your throat. And so you get this blockage, which leads you to gasp for air, and this is what the apneas are. So if you simply sleep on your side, and this is one of the treatments that we offer to people for sleep apnea. If you sleep on your side, you may not have the problem at all, and you don't need mouth tape. You don't need anything. You just need to sleep on your side. And they make devices that help people to train to sleep on their side. It's like wearing a shark fin on your back in a way. So if you try to lay on your back, you can't do it because you got this thing in the way. So it forces you to sleep on the side.
Wow.
So don't use mouth tape. Sleep on your side, and the problem goes away.
Well, let me ask you this. What's going on if you're a flipper flopper? I go from side to side sometimes when I can't sleep. And then I take a lot of we'll get into it, the supplement part of it, of perhaps supplements that are good or bad for either interrupting sleep or enhancing sleep. There's a lot of them out there. That's another whole thing. My gosh, it's everywhere, right? So many new supplements out there. But continue. Continue what you were saying. I apologize for the interruption.
Yeah, no. So I was just pointing out the fact that when people wonder whether mouth taping is good or bad for them, it depends on all these circumstances that I was pointing out. So it could be helpful in the right case, but it could be harmful in the wrong case.
Okay.
And there's alternatives. So that's one of the big trends out there right now is the mouth taping thing.
Yeah. Does it cause wrinkles around your lips?
I haven't seen any studies that have looked at that one way or the other.
I'm just trying to cover everything here. Okay, so the next top buzz sleep trend is the 3 a.m. wake up crisis. So millions of people are Googling it. And even I mentioned it to a friend of mine, Raquel. She told me that the Hispanic culture, they call it the devil's hour. So, Andrew, why are we all waking up at the same time, and how do we stop it?
Okay, this is a good one.
I bet it is.
So, when I talk about sleep, I talk about the threes, the 3 p.m. and the 3 a.m. And when you look at a chart of a person's, sleepiness throughout the day and what's going on with their circadian rhythm and their sleep cycle and all that, what you'll see is generally we tend to wake up and get out of bed around 6, 7, 8 a.m., something like that. And then we start our day off. And as we start our day, two things happen. One, we start to build sleep pressure for the coming evening at the end of the day. And we have the lowest level of melatonin in our system because when we get daylight blocks the release of melatonin, and melatonin is the hormone that, tells us it's time to get ready for bed and prepares us for bed. So in the morning, we're wide awake. Now, as the day goes on, we've got this sleep pressure slowly building and building and building and building. And the sun is starting to move from the highest part, starting to work towards going down. So when we hit 3 p.m., there's this natural dip in our cycle. And you'll find that you kind of get sleepy. It's a time when people are struggling to finish up the day of work. And that's just a natural part of our sleep cycle. So that's the 3 p.m. thing. You get through the 3 p.m. and, I worked in Miami. In Miami, there's a big Cuban culture. And about 3 p.m., you would hear all the espresso machines turning on for the Cuban coffee.
Really?
Super high amounts of caffeine and sugar.
Well, and in the Hispanic culture, they call it a siesta. They typically relax in the middle of the afternoon, right?
Yep. And so that's, your body and your system is designed to hit that dip at 3 p.m. But now you're asking about 3 a.m., so let's explain how that happens.
Okay.
So we now, work past that 3 p.m. slump. Our sleep pressure is continuing to build. The sun is starting to change to where it will start to be going down. So now you get to be about, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening. And about that time, your sleep pressure is really starting to get to the max. And your body, through your circadian rhythm, is starting to release melatonin into your system, which is getting you ready to fall asleep. And then by around 10 p.m., 11 p.m., most people will be asleep. They'll be in bed, they'll be sleeping. And when you first go to bed, you're starting to relieve your sleep pressure. You've got the melatonin that has kind of gotten you to where you need to be. So your sleep pressure starts to slowly relieve. The melatonin stops being produced and starts to calm down for the evening. So when you first start sleeping, you will go through typically stage 1 sleep, which is kind of getting ready to sort of fall asleep here. You're really kind of groggy and out of it. And then stage 3 sleep, which is I am sound asleep, and all the good stuff like the learning and memory consolidation of that law school exam you were studying for starts to happen. And then after stage 3, we go into REM sleep, which is actually a lighter stage of sleep. But what makes it different from other sleep is that in REM sleep, basically your body freezes, all of your muscles kind of freeze, and now your brain is active. And that's where we do all the dreaming and everything. And you will cycle through that cycle every 90 to 120 minutes until around 3 a.m. It's different for everybody, but around 3 a.m. And at 3 a.m., some people 4 a.m., some people 5 a.m., what happens there is our body stops going into that deep stage 3 sleep, and it moves into just cycling between stage 1 and stage 2 sleep. So naturally, our body is now in the lighter stages of sleep. So if you're only in the lighter stages of sleep and you have something going on, maybe you have sleep apnea and you gasp for air. Maybe you have restless leg syndrome and your legs are twitching. Maybe you have some noise that happens in the house and it startles you. Maybe you have a hot flash and it wakes you up. There's a lot of reasons that can cause someone to wake. And because they're in that light sleep at that point, this is why you get these 3 a.m. wake-ups.
Yeah. I'm thinking of so many things. What about those white noise machines? Are they healthy for you?
Yeah, actually, there's white noise, green noise, pink noise, brown noise.
Really?
All of those are fine if you have noise that's really disrupting your sleep and you want to kind of drown it out. So the important thing to know there is those sounds are like the...
Oh, lost you. Are
What
you
you-
there? Whatever you just said, it didn't get recorded. First, it's dropping out on your computer. If you could say it again, please. Lost about 15 seconds, I think, maybe 10.
Okay, so we're talking about colored noise machines, white noise, pink noise, brown noise, green noise. All of these things are great if you need to drown out some background noise that might be interrupting your sleep. Maybe you've got, you live on a busy road and cars are driving by. Maybe you have, other people in the house making noise, whatever it may be. So those are good because they'll give this constant background noise. So it kind of puts your brain at ease. The thing that you want to avoid when it comes to sound machines is the ones that have like the birds calling out in the forest or the buoy dinging in the ocean, those types of things.
Because you don't never fall asleep, right? You're always listening to the birds.
Bingo. You're staying awake waiting for when is the next bird chirp going to come?
Oh yeah.
When is the next bell going to ring? So you're causing yourself to stay awake.
Yeah.
Rather than getting the sleep.
Well, and people do it. I do it. I just stopped doing this too, like falling asleep with watching my computer, like watching a movie or something or YouTube. And it's really bad for you. So now I have switched back to a good habit, which I did for years, which is reading in bed, which nothing will put you to sleep faster than reading, I think, at least for me. Yeah.
It's a very calming activity, especially if you're doing it on a real book, without the blue light and everything. Yeah.
Well, I'm reading this little thing that I pulled out about. It's by the authors are. It's from a lecture series from the Center for Brain Health. I believe is it's about brain performance, but it talks in here. I was just reading this, and it's sleep and circadian rhythms, the brain benefits of getting enough sleep, and it goes on and on. But long-term sleep loss, this is pretty shocking, Andrew. It says from long-term sleep loss, risk of diabetes 2, metabolic syndrome and obesity, immune suppression, increased infection or cancer risk, increased cardiovascular disease, long-term use of stimulants and sedatives, relapse and exacerbation of symptoms in mental illness. Those are very profound, and so glad we're talking about this and putting out so much good information. Okay, where do we want to go with this? Okay, here's the next one. On the 2025 top buzziest sleep trends, the next trend is made me kind of figuratively speaking, of course, scratch my head. But if you're waking up to an alarm clock that jolts you out of bed, you're sleeping wrong. Is that right, Andrew?
Okay, yeah. So I like this one because most everybody out there who uses an alarm clock has the typical alarm clock, or now maybe they use their phone as their alarm clock. But when they set the time for the alarm, they have some sort of a buzzing or a ringing or a jolting sound that just kind of, knocks you out of bed. It knocks you awake, right?
Yeah,
because
I hate
it's
it.
so jarring.
Yeah.
So it's effective because it wakes you up, right? Unless you keep hitting that snooze button or, whatever. But basically, this is what we've all been trained to use, and it does the job. But what's really happening? What's really happening is you're in this calm sleep state. Maybe, your system is now slowly getting ready to kind of wake for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of kind of waking naturally the way we would, we start to wake and then boom, you're jolted out of bed. And so your body just pumps all this adrenaline in because it's like, oh my God, is it a saber-toothed tiger coming to eat me? What do I need to do? What's happening? And you just throw everything, out of sync. And then you're supposed to start your day nice and calm and drive to the office in rush hour traffic and be happy and not cut anybody off, right?
Yeah. You better not.
Yes. So it's effective, but not necessarily the best way to get out of bed.
Yeah.
What I tell people to do, and you can find these all over the place now. There's these sunrise alarm clocks, lots of different names for them. But basically what they are clocks that do two things. You can set the alarm, and then it has this light that simulates the sunlight, and the light slowly starts to come on as it becomes time for you to wake up, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And so you can also set a tone, meaning some calming thing that gets louder and louder and louder as the light gets brighter and brighter. So you slowly wake yourself out of bed into a nice calm morning, instead of getting jolted out of bed and now you're angry at the world.
Yeah. It can be very triggering. Last night I was making a frozen pizza, so I said, Siri, give me 20 minutes on the timer. And when it went off, I was like, oh, that's so annoying, because it reminded me, I don't set my alarm very rarely unless I'm traveling. I wake up naturally because I have just a big set of windows right beside my bed. I am lucky. Only when I travel do I do it, typically, because I have a bunch of dogs, so they usually start barking early in the morning anyway. And so, but it was so annoying, so triggering. I was like, oh, I said, I feel like I'm ready to get on to go to the airport. But I think that waking up slowly is a really good idea if you can do it. Not everyone can, and they certainly, that's why the weekends are so important. Sleep is really sacred. It's sacred for so many reasons. And here's another thing that I had in my file, my sleep file, that I think is really interesting as well. The shocking tip that will help you build muscle from a nurse practitioner, and her name, the author is Jamie Schneider. This is from May 9th, 2023. And she wrote an article about basically sleep is sacred, and that, the best way to build muscle and maintain healthy muscle is to get a good night's sleep. That even one night of bad sleep can decrease muscle protein synthesis. And how many of us are trying to, get healthy, build lean muscle? And I mean, sleep is just absolutely critical for so many things. Like ultimately, you're not just your physical health, your mental health, everything, your health, period. Right?
Bingo. See, and that's the thing that we did not know before. We thought sleep was just a side effect of something that happened from other things.
Yeah.
What we're learning now is that people who start to get proper sleep actually can improve their depression, they can improve their anxiety, they can improve their physical health. Sleep, can be the thing that causes it to happen, not a side effect of other things happening. So there are so many benefits that we're finding that occur from getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Well, the next one on this list of the 2025 top sleep trends is the tech takeover. So you say from wearables to smart beds. Andrew, where are we in this sleep gadget world? Are they helping us or are they hurting us?
So this is really like the big thing that's happening in sleep right now. And like I said, I literally just a few hours ago came back from the sleep conference, and lots of sessions about sleep tech and things. And here's where we are. It's a double-edged sword. So there's a lot of good that can come from it. In terms of, number one, it's made people more aware of sleep. So now they're more aware whether they may have sleep issues that need to be addressed. That's a good thing. Number two, as we start to see AI now being integrated into these things, it's happening so quickly. You'll have things like smart beds or bed toppers or things. So like I have clients who have hot flashes that wake them, in the middle of the night, and then they can't get back to bed. Well, they have devices now that will monitor your temperature of your body, and then all on its own will change the temperature of your bed. So if you're getting hot, it will start to cool your bed for you, or vice versa. So there's so many things like that that can be good and can be helpful. Now, here's the downside. The number of people using wearables and the number of wearables that are out there now, whether it be a watch or a ring or whatever it may be, where people are monitoring their sleep, if you take it too far, it goes in reverse. So a lot of these things will give you like a sleep score or something.
Yeah.
And people are striving, oh my God, my sleep score was only 70, and how do I get it to 100? And last night it was only 98, and I need to be, and they work themselves up into a frenzy that they actually get something that we call orthosomnia. And orthosomnia is a new disease out there related to wearables and tech, where people get so hyper-focused on these sleep scores that it's a whole other conversation. They don't mean much per se, because we don't even know how they're generated, and every company has their own way of doing it and all this stuff. But the point is, people now lay there awake because they're so worried about trying to get the perfect night of sleep that they get no sleep at all.
Yeah, I can see that happening with, we've become such an obsessed society about so many things, when, a lot of it is pretty simple. I'm looking at another reference here. We already talked about the caffeine, don't drink any caffeine. It says here 10 hours before you go to bed, 2 hours, stop working at least 2 hours before heading to bed. That's another practical bit of advice. Switch off electronic device an hour before you hit the pillow, including TV, laptops, mobile phones, and tablets. And number 3, stop eating around 3 hours before bed. How many of us, including me, I did it last night. I got up for some ice cream before I went to bed. It was actually sorbet, but yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good. It was caramel with nuts in it. Oh my gosh. But I feel like sometimes that makes me sleep better, a little snackaroo like that. What do you think?
Well,
what's the science say?
If it makes you feel, better, there's nothing wrong with it. The downside, though, is that, think about this. We discourage people from waking and going in the kitchen and eating, because what you're really doing is you're starting to add to your waistline. You're putting on weight because you're not you're not able to work off or digest the food, and then you're laying there and it's just turning into fat on your body. And then you got to go to the gym and spend an extra hour on the treadmill or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I do like a banking system where if I, my calories, I don't really count them, but if I do something bad like that, the next night, I don't, or for several nights, kind of like balancing it out, cleaning it up without really sitting down pen to paper and counting calories. So I punished myself for a couple of days after being bad. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it works for me. But, this next thing, Andrew, on this list of top or 2025 top buzziest sleep trends is, where is it? I just lost my here. Okay, here we go. It's something I've never heard of before. Sleep tourism. Okay, so Andrew, what's the buzz on sleep tourism? What is that?
Right. So that is listed as one of the top issues out there for 2025. And what it is that so many people are now aware of their sleep, and they want to get good sleep, and they feel that they may have tried several things and it's not working, and they need to kind of find a way to reset their sleep. There are typically luxury hotels and spas all around the world that have sleep programs where you go there and you spend maybe a couple days, maybe a week or more, depending on the particular program, and they have packages for sleep. Now, that can include all sorts of things, meaning they have special pillow choices and mattresses and massages and those types of things. Some you'll get a visit with an actual sleep doctor and an assessment. So each one of the programs is different, but they're all designed to try to help enhance your sleep. And, people will spend a lot of time and money to go far away to someplace just to get a good night's sleep.
So it doesn't work in reverse, kind of like the wearables, where you're like, oh my God, I paid all this money to go and sleep. I must sleep. Where you put all that pressure on yourself to sleep.
It could. It's hard to do that when you're getting a nice warm massage with calming music and healthy food, and you're in a natural environment where you don't have all the city noises of sirens and horns honking and all that. So they could be very relaxing situations.
Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know if I would. I don't know. It sounds interesting. If nothing else, I mean, you get some rest, right? That's what you're supposed to do on vacation is rest. So
Yep.
I could see the benefit or the power in that. Selling it is that. Okay. So on the list of 2025 top sleep trends is the sleep hygiene reset. So Andrew, how do we best hit reset on our sleep hygiene?
Okay.
And our beauty sleep.
Yes. So this is something that everybody can and should do if they want to get better sleep. So think about, in the days prior to the invention of electricity and these things, we would tend to go to bed when it got dark and wake up when it got light, and everything was fine. But then we got the electric light, and that allowed us to stay up later because now we could actually see. And then we started to have work and different work shifts.
Lost you again for a sec.
Oh.
Lost you again for just a couple secs.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll start that section again. So sleep hygiene reset means that prior to the days of electricity, you go back to sunrise, sunset. We wake up when the sun comes up, we go to bed when the sun goes down, and everything was great with our sleep. Then we get the electric light, and that allows us to stay up later when normally our body would have been starting to go to bed. We get different work schedules now because electric lights exist and other types of machinery and things are starting to be invented. We have different responsibilities now because our family, maybe we have kids that are going out to play sports after school and the fields are lit up so they can do that later. So all these different things start happening that cause us to get fragmented sleep because we're not just going on this standard sleep-wake cycle like we would have done. And the more we do that, the older we get, the more opportunities there are to go out with friends tonight or go see a movie or go do this or go do that. And so our sleep starts to get fragmented, and then we start to turn our bed into our living space. So we bring our computer into our bed, we watch TV from our bed, we eat in bed, we scroll on our phone in bed, we do all these things that keep us awake. And so the sleep hygiene reset basically says, let's go back to what we need to do to get good sleep. When you're in bed, beds are used for two things and two things only: sleep and intimacy, period. Nothing else.
Well, speaking of intimacy, do you sleep better after sex? I'm going to say yes, across the board.
I would think the answer to that is yes, based upon the hormones and the way your body functions.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer would be yes. But if you are laying in bed, doom scrolling because you're bored or you're not sleepy or whatever, or you're, doing one of many other activities other than sleep or intimacy, then you're creating this negative association between your bed and sleep. It means, my bed means I can do all these other things.
Yeah.
And the association you want is my bed means sleep, and that's your sleep hygiene reset. So by taking all the things out of bed that don't belong there and reserving your bed for sleep only, you reset your system And so now when your body sees the bed and you get into bed, your body knows, oh, this means sleep. Let me go to sleep now.
Yeah, good to know all of it. This is interesting, very interesting. And last on this list is the top 25 buzziest sleep trends is personalized sleep solutions. So what is next in hyper individualized rest, Andrew?
Yeah, so it's not only sleep, it's even medicine and other things. What we're learning is that if we pay attention to people's circadian rhythms, for example, there are certain medications that they're doing these studies where they will give you a medication, not because it's the right medication, but it's the right medication and then at the right time of day based on your personal system and your personal circadian rhythm. So we're even giving medications this way. But along with this, like we were talking before about some of the AI opportunities with the sleep cooling pads and these types of things, the whole idea is everybody doesn't sleep the same. You know, some people are larks. They wake up early in the morning and they go to bed, sooner than others. Other people are owls. They dread the idea of waking up early in the morning and they'll stay up all night. They love it that way. So creating solutions that match their chronotype is important. Creating solutions that match their particular needs. Maybe some people are hypersensitive to sound. Maybe some people are hypersensitive to temperature. Maybe some people, everyone has different likes and dislikes that match their particular body. So the concept here is developing solutions that are not one size fits all, but are that actually personalized to your particular system. And the number of opportunities and devices and research and things going on are just endless.
There's so much to know about this. And as I've never heard of a degree, CBT-I, for insomnia and then one for nightmares. Very, very interesting. And it's talking here in this article that I was looking at, if you're that the anxiety that if you're in hyper arousal and stressed, it's entirely logical that you won't sleep because the stress response calls the body to be alert, triggering the hypothalamus to send the message to flood the system with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing the body for flight, fight, freeze, or whatever else it needs to do. And so I could see where behavioral cognitive therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, especially for insomnia, would be so critical in fixing your health, both mental and physical, because as we know, they're connected. Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah. Sleep is a very behavioral type of process. I didn't know that before I started to learn all about sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting.
It is. And so sleep. So my children, both of them, used to have sleep terrors or I guess they call them night terrors or sleep terrors. Are they more common in children? And I just, out of curiosity, I know you know the answer. What causes them?
So that's a great question because there's a lot of different things that fall into the similar type of category. You have something called like REM sleep behavior disorder. REM sleep, if you remember earlier, I was saying that's when your body is kind of like frozen, but your mind is active.
Yeah.
Well, if you have REM sleep behavior disorder, your body, while it's supposed to be frozen, actually is not. So you're in this dream state, but your body is actually responding. And so people in some cases will get out of bed and go live the dream, without realizing that they're doing this. And so that's REM sleep behavior. Then you've got nightmare disorder. And that's where you come up with a nightmare that is so disturbing that it wakes you up. A lot of times a nightmare will be based upon a theme of something that actually happened in your life. It doesn't have to be, but a lot of times you'll see that. You have night terrors. There's so many different things, but it's all about, my sleep is bad because I'm being woken up because something is stimulating my system or overstimulating my system. And then you have to find out what exactly is it so then we know how to address it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There, a lot of kids have them. This was been many years ago or several years ago. And mothers will say, I don't know what, I can remember having like a group discussion about it, like what causes them in children. So, and as a mother, you feel a responsibility to fix it, to fix everything.
Right.
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 What do you personally do when you can't sleep, Andrew? Do you get up? They advise that you get up out of bed. Is that what you do?
Yeah. So, before I knew anything about sleep, I did what probably almost everybody out there who's listening to this does. I would lay in bed and I'd say, oh my gosh, I'm not sleeping. That's making me really anxious. I need to get some sleep. I don't know, I'm going to, quote, try to sleep, which I still don't know what that means. I always ask my patients, what do you mean you tried to sleep? What did you do? Did you say the word sleep louder to yourself? I don't know what that means. So typically, we will lay there and we will get so anxious about the fact that we're not sleeping that now we become anxious about being anxious about not sleeping, and we don't sleep at all. So the best thing to do, which is what now I know to do, is if you are laying in bed and you are not sleeping, you should be getting out of bed. Your bed should be reserved for sleep, like we said, sleep and intimacy. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes you're not going to sleep. You're going to have a bad night. That's okay. Everybody does. Get out of bed, go sit down somewhere, read a book, do a puzzle, call a friend on a different time zone, do some laundry, wash the dishes, whatever you need to do, some sort of a nondescript activity that's not going to cause you to stay awake, like playing a video game where you want to get to the end and get to the next level. Now you're going to keep yourself up. And then go back into bed when you feel like, if I go into bed, I know I'm going to be able to put my head down on the pillow and I'm going to fall asleep. And if that's not going to happen and you have a bad night, everybody has a bad night every once in a while, and your body will adjust in the next night. You will have built more sleep pressure, so you'll be more tired and more, prone to go to bed the next night. Mm-hmm.
Creating good habits, I believe, making your bed, and then when you turn the sheets down at night, making it like a practice, right? Like it's almost ceremonial. Maybe having sleepy time tea in the middle of the night. Don't have coffee, but like sleepy time tea or something like that. If you wake up, that's always something good. And I don't know, as a therapist, the answer better, or a licensed professional counselor, I should say, and licensed mental health counselor. You've got a lot of experience with this. Maybe you haven't finished processing your thoughts for the day. It's not good to go to bed when your mind is upset, right? Maybe sit and have a cup of coffee and think, or talk to a friend. If you've just gotten, some sort of bad news, or you're struggling with something, like talk therapy with a friend, perhaps, especially if it's long term, if it continues, right? Or get a therapist to talk it out. That's a good idea, right? Especially someone like you that has the CBT-I and the CBT-N degree. So,
Yeah, I tell people, look, if you have a particular thing or things that are weighing on your mind and it's bedtime, you can just put a journal by your bed, write down all those things, so that, because there's this fear like, well, if I go to bed, then I'm going to forget to worry about this. And then I worry about that. So if you write it down in a journal, it'll be there in the morning when you wake up. It tends to allow people to kind of clear their mind, and then they can get some sleep.
Yeah. I find that if I work hard throughout the day, if I've accomplished a lot in a day, both physically and then, mentally with my work, when I sleep better when I work harder, and I've worked myself to a state of not, exhaustion, but to a state of, this has been a productive day. I think a lot of people that sit at desks and stuff like that, they're not getting enough physical activity that could affect their ability to sleep well, right? Because your body's meant to move. It's meant to work hard. You agree with that?
Yeah, well, sure. And that's, when we talk about building up sleep pressure, the person who's outside, digging holes in the ground and digging ditches, their body is going to be exhausted when it comes time for bed, versus someone who was sitting at a desk in a nice air-conditioned environment that didn't have too much stress on them, it's going to be harder for that person to fall asleep.
Yeah, and I'm looking here at this again. This reference thing it talks about sleeping naked. To consider your body will stay cooler at night, especially in the summer. Consider sleeping alone. That many partners don't like the same kind of mattress or sleep conditions as their mate, and they struggle to sleep under unfavorable conditions, or with a snoring partner, like you talked about earlier in the podcast, increases stress and fatigue. Yeah, that I couldn't sleep next to someone snoring all night. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I think that some people try this mouth taping idea is seeing if they can address that issue.
It talks about painting your room a soothing shade of blue or green in a matte finish and keep the room between 60 and 67. That sounds expensive with the cost of air conditioning. Plus, I think it's kind of, I don't know, what if you lose your air conditioning? We can't become so spoiled. That's just my opinion. But it even talks about a comforter and mattress and attractive bedding can make create a better sleep atmosphere. I believe in that. I love my yummy sheets, you know. Do you have really great sheets, Andrew?
I do, and then I also have some plain Jane, sheets. But I have a ceiling fan in my room, for example.
Okay,
and
there you go.
I typically always have it on low when I'm sleeping because I need the air movement. I don't want it. It's not on high. It's not blowing heavy on me. But if the air isn't moving, I have a hard time sleeping. I don't know why. That's just how I work.
No, and everybody's different. Bamboo sheets are really comfortable. Linen sheets are really comfortable. They let your skin breathe, and I say washing your linen at least once a week too makes it fresh. And so when you get into bed, you feel like like there's nothing better than a freshly made clean bed when you go to roll into sleep.
Absolutely, that's super important because you get a lot of dead skin cells. Yeah. Hopefully you don't have bed bugs, but there are lots of other things that come to feed on the dead skin cells and things. So it is important to wash your sheets at least once every 2 weeks. Once a week is certainly better.
Yeah. Well, and here's my final thing, and then we'll wrap this up. But people believe that they can compensate for sleep deprivation during the week by sleeping late on the weekends, or like on a vacation day or something like that. Is that a myth? It's a myth, isn't it?
It's a myth. If you look at the science, and that particular one has been studied a lot, you don't ever fully catch up on that sleep. Yeah. You may catch up a little bit, but no, you're not gonna catch up on all of it. Yeah. It's better to get set a standard sleep time, a standard wake time. Do that 7 days a week if you can. If you follow that, and then you follow all the good sleep hygiene tips, and you're not using your bed for anything but sleep, and some of the things we've talked about, that's what's going to help you get, restful sleep where it's going to be meaningful to you, and your system is going to be able to recharge, and all the good things that happen during sleep that we've talked about will be able to happen.
Absolutely. And you would know, Sleep Science Guy. That's his website, you guys. Sleep Science Guy, sleepscienceguy.com, or on Instagram at Sleep Science Guy, as well as Instagram at Sleep Science Today. Andrew, thank you so much for jumping on the air with us today. This has been fun, and I love talking. I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. I'm setting myself up already.
Well, I'll just share with you that, if people are interested to hear more details about sleep and dive into some of these topics in more detail, I have the radio show Sleep Science Today. It's also out on YouTube and on all the major podcasts. So you just look up Sleep Science Today. And then if you go to my website, you can also see the book that I put out, which is Why Can't I Sleep Well? And what I did there is I took 150 of the most common questions that people have about sleep, and I gave the answers with all of the supporting scientific studies behind each one of them, so you can see, this is what the science says, this is what the study was, and this is why I can't sleep well with this particular issue.
Fantastic. And the name of the book again, and where can I get it?
So the book is called Why Can't I Sleep Well?
Why Can't I Sleep? Okay.
Yep.
Sleep well.
And it's on Amazon.
All right.
And so it covers pretty much anything you could think of. Your question and answer will be in there.
I'm going to get a copy. And, again, thank you so much. And, maybe we can talk again about your book. I'm going to read that. And then there might be a lot of things we left out. Sleep is important for everything.
So much happening in sleep.
Yeah, no, there is. I want to hear about the conference, what you learned. I would love to have you come back. I'll get the book, I'll read it, and we'll talk about the conference as well. Because sleep is so critical. Even your bank account is affected, like we said at the beginning of the show. Your bank account is affected. Your life, your whole legacy is dependent on a good night's sleep. It's just really big. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to bring the music up. And Andrew Colsky, everyone, I encourage you to go to Amazon and get his book and find out, why you can't get a good night's sleep. What is it? Say it again. I'm so dumb. I can't believe.
That's okay. It's Why Can't I Sleep Well?
There you go. Why can't I sleep well? I don't think I slept very well last night. Maybe that's why I can't think straight. But anyway, thank you so much, Andrew Colsky, everyone. Check him out at sleepscienceguy.com or on Instagram at sleepscienceguy. We will talk to you later, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. I know we always enjoy putting it out. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.